Good evening and howdy there, Rick. This is Dr. BB, and this evening we're going to get into the middle of the latest mess. This week we are listening in and watching our news programs to find out what's going to happen with the latest survival packet. And as you may know, part of that packet included a $15 minimum wage. They call it a hike. Maybe that is a hike. I don't know. It was $7.25 and has been since the 90s. You know, that's pretty dang sad. So tonight we're going to be talking about that. And the question that I posed to you this evening is, why is the idea of a $15 per hour minimum wage such a threat to the white Republican male? You know, it's so easy for those who spend that and more on Starbucks and afternoon martinis to want to deny the merest of dignities of a higher minimum wage, and what that would bring to families. What will it take from you if people have a shot at getting out of poverty? Well, Rick, I'll tell you, because it is the white Republican male. So it ain't got nothing to do with white. It's got to do with being Republican. Okay. So just bear with me, because the majority of them, if you listened last week, they're on the Trump train. All right. And it's headed for a wall, by the way. But I want to ask you, what will it take from you if people have a shot at getting out of poverty? So most economists agree that increasing minimum wage would actually boost the economy. Let me do a little bit of math for you. $15,080 is what a person making minimum wage takes home before taxes for working 40 hours per week. 40 hours, 52 weeks per year. That's no vacay, okay? That's no vacay, all right? So that's $15,080. This is before taxes. If they were making $15 per hour for the 40 hours per week, 52 weeks per year, again, no vacation time, that's $31,000. That's not even enough to buy an economy car, let alone feed a family. So let me tell you, even if there were two parents and they doubled that, $62,000 per year is not enough. I want to know how many people out there grew up and said, man, one day I want to be making 62 grand a year. I feel like I will have arrived. It's not enough, because the cost of food is not based upon those who can afford to eat. It's based upon those who can afford it. The cost of electricity, gas, water, phone, and what some to believe a luxury, but it's essential. We know this. The internet is not based upon affordability. They're based upon the market, a market that poor people cannot even afford to invest in. And the really messed up thing is this, is that the same people who are against raising the minimum wage are also against affordable health care, Planned Parenthood, and food programs for school children. And yes, Rick, I did say white because it was those white Republicans in our Senate who voted against these programs and who are largely against a $15 minimum wage. I can't help it that they're white. I can't help it that they're Republican. I'm just telling you what's going on. So what I want to know is, what are they afraid of? Who are they afraid of? Are they afraid of the little black girl or the little black boy who may grow up one day to be someone? Are they afraid that this would mean more immigrants coming in from Trump's, and I'm using the air quotes here, shithole countries? Are they afraid that women might not need to get married to survive financially? The truth is, it all comes down to white fear. That's right, fear. You see, as long as people of color are kept down, they're kept out. We know that people of color have historically remained in the cycle of poverty longer than white people. Let me bust a few myths for you. This is not because Black people want to be poor. This is not because they are lazy. This is not because they are unintelligent. It is because of the systemic racism that exists in our community, schools, hospitals, and yes, the governmental entities that are supposed to be there to serve. So let me hit you up with a news flash. This transgenerational poverty is changing fast, and within the next 50 years will no longer be the case. Black and brown folk are going to build wealth with or without you. And guess what? They will not be building it on your backs or the backs of your children. Then we are going to help others build their wealth. We will not stop until no child of color ever has to worry about having decent clothes or shoes, let alone enough food to eat, or dying because of skin color. Rick, my love, I have not been brainwashed. I actually use my brain. The worm system works against those in poverty. To be honest, $15 per hour is a joke, but it is a start. The terrifying thing is that a couple making $15 per hour each and bringing home $60K together will not qualify for food stamp programs or medical care for their children. They already cannot afford child care. But with the promise of promotions and raises, there might be a reason to hang in there. But that's not what you want, worms, is it? You, worms, want them to recognize they cannot feed and have medical care for their kids and work too. So this is what you call a double bind. Damned poor if you do, damned poor if you don't. Then, in order to live, they have to do the minimum. So they qualify for food and medical for their kids. The genius of the worm plan is this. They also want to cut Planned Parenthood programs so that people who are poor and uninsured keep having children they cannot afford to feed. So they are kept on social services, Section 8 housing, and barely eking out an existence. And the plan, that old worm plan, just gets better. Keep them all cramped together in poorly constructed apartment buildings with limited access to public transportation and no major businesses in the area for shopping or working. Anyone living like this feels the threat to their very survival. Their basic needs for survival and safety are threatened every day. Yet, for some crazy reason, worms not only wonder but dare to complain about why there is so much crime, violence, substance abuse, and suicide, and yes, even homicide amongst the poor. The really revolting thing about it is that the poor white people, most of whom live in rural America, are convinced into voting for these worms, voting them into office because they are all so terrified that black and brown folk are going to come in, they're going to take their jobs. When statistics show that the majority of people on welfare are, poor white rural folk. So the question begs to be asked, what jobs? The delusion of white superiority and supremacy has blinded many white Americans for far too long. They are now the ones that are enslaved. Yeah. Because you see, it's not the black folks. The key difference here is black people did not walk willingly into those shackles. And they began fighting against them before they were even locked. But not these folks. Hell, no. No. They walked forward, stretched out their arms, and offered up their feet. Lock me in, they said. I would rather be a slave to lies, humiliated and poor, than to ever believe that my whiteness does not somehow make me special and revered amongst all living things. Even when I live in a shack in some podunk little town that, as my mama used to say, ain't got a pot to piss in, they are too damn dumb to know they are voting for their own destruction. Because the only thing in the eye of the worms, as Scout Finch said about Poe White Trash, Bob Ewell, the only thing that separated him from the Negroes in this little Alabama town in 1932 was the color of his skin. The color of someone's skin should never be a sign of worth, ever. Harper Lee taught me all I ever needed to know about how white supremacists think and how they did not feel for anyone other than themselves. We have seen this over and over again. The majority of them lack the ability to feel or even express genuine empathy. The few sound clips I have heard of the CPAC this weekend further increases the cold fear that is making its way up my spine. These people are dangerous. And they only appeal to the violently dangerous and the dangerously ignorant. It is an insidious combination when the two are one. And January 6th was evidence of that. And what is happening right now in Orlando, Florida, is further evidence of it. I couldn't hear what you said. The worms, man, are they lost. So come on now, worms, bow down to your golden sow. Trump, that's what he is. Bow and scrape and be proud of your willful ignorance. Continue to deny science, crowd up and around one another. Hell, drink out of the same bucket with the same dipper. And don't wear your mask. You know that it will be some black nurse, doctor, or EMT that has to save your sorry ass. The worms are just that. They worm their way into your thoughts, your fears, and make you believe that they ever could possibly give a damn about your dreams. They don't. They won't. They take a good look at you and they just dismiss you. So why don't you take a good look at them sometimes? Most of them think you are no better than something they might scrape off the bottom of their shoes. So on a closing note, I find it ironic that Ted Cruz, strutting his lard ass across the stage on Friday at CPAC, first of all, joked about his little jaunt to Cancun, and second of all, let out the famous cry from Braveheart, freedom. It reminded me of a passage from my dissertational research on racism and the failure as a society that we have had, perhaps until now, to call it what it is. I wrote, the issue of political correctness may be the reason that some may view racism as a choice, as a matter of opinion, seemingly given it the same freedom as religion and politics. Conversely, racism must be recognized as an epidemic pervading our society and weakening its defenses. It was 8 years ago I wrote this. As a society, we had no idea we would find ourselves where we are now. Those of us who predicted we would hoped we were wrong. And so this weekend, as we've got all of these worms in Orlando lining up to have their picture taken with their golden sow and bowing and scraping to the former ex-president, they are calling to arms the people who gathered together on January 6th. We heard this in the testimony of one of the sergeant at arms this past week, that there are already plans for something else to occur around the time that President Biden will be making his first State of the Union address. And yet, people who are serving, who have been duly voted into office, are down there in Orlando and bragging about their association with these people. Yes, white Republican males. I don't see any Democrats down there. Okay? Now, granted, there are some that are standing up. They're not slithering around on their bellies like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Lindsey Graham. They're standing up. So Trump says that no, he is not going to create a new party. You know, that he's got the Republican Party. But then there are others that say, you just wait, Trump. You just wait. Number one, I do know that these sickening, repulsive individuals are out there. I have always known they are out there. There was a time when they stayed in the shadows, but not anymore. Not anymore. They're out there and they're loud. And I'm not asking them to shut up. I'd rather for them to be loud so I can call them out. So this is the thing. If you want to deny that this is happening, maybe it's because your head is so far up your ass that you can't see anything else but the bile that rises every time you open your mouth. Rick. And all the other Ricks out there. Is it a coincidence that Rick rhymes with dick? Well, I don't know. Rick, I guess you're a worm too. No, this is not a woke crusade. I've been awake my whole life. I've been fighting this shit my entire life. And I'm going to keep on fighting, you see, because as long as people like you exist who deny that this kind of ugliness is in the society, and as long as you want to deny simple dignity and equality, equity to other human beings, as long as you deny that other individuals who just happen not to be white are less than human, less than, yeah, Rick, I'm going to keep up my crusade, you know. So I'd like to know what you've done, Rick, to keep up yours. How much research have you done? Maybe all the talking that you do while you throw back a few beers, spit your chewing tobacco on the ground. Yeah, right. Well, see, I don't have a PhD behind my name for nothing. I've actually done the research and I have lived the life. So With that being stated, I hope that all of you have a great week out there and that you keep your eyes and your ears open. And as I said to my listeners last week, there's a lot of chatter on the dark web. Don't be a part of it. But if you see something, say something. We have got to learn how to recognize that there are human lives at stake. It doesn't matter whether you agree with somebody's views or not. People should not have to die because of this misguided worship of the thing that was. So, this is Dr. BB signing out. I will be posting this on Wednesday for it to go out to the various mediums out there for podcasts. And in the meanwhile, keep your mask on because it's real. Socially distance yourselves, but don't intellectually distance yourselves. My God, Rick, there's just been way too much of that. I'll catch you guys next week, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday.